Do you think that this criminal complaint against Rajapaksa is realistic? Would he ever likely be arrested, or is this just a symbolic move?
Well, the ITJP has been moving on these matters for quite some time. So they seem to have seized the opportunity of making a complaint in Singapore. But the Singapore approach, as far as we know, is generally while universal jurisdiction is applicable there, they would permit the Singapore courts to exercise that jurisdiction only as a last resort. So my personal understanding is it is very unlikely that the Singapore government would act on this matter at this point of time.
What kind of support does Rajapaksa have, both in Sri Lanka and outside? Is he facing a life of exile from Sri Lanka, or is he another war criminal who will ultimately escape prosecution?
Well, Rajapaksa is not popular, particularly among human rights groups all over the world as well as in Sri Lanka. And that has been the position since end of the war in 2009. But in 2019, he won the presidential election in Sri Lanka by a massive majority. But that popularity has now gone after his colossal blunders in governance, which has brought the country uh, into a grave economic crisis and the country on its knees. So that's why he even had to tender his resignation after leaving the country. So he's extremely unpopular in the country as well. And in Sri Lanka, there he is also subject to several investigations, legal investigations, which were put on hold once he became president because the president, while being president, enjoys immunity. Now, how that will play out if he comes back to Sri Lanka remains to be seen. But I sense that those who have been sort of baying for his blood internationally will continue to hound him for some time until he finds some safe haven.
What do you think the future of Sri Lanka is looking like with all this upheaval, the economic crisis, and if Rajapaksa doesn't face charges? Is there a danger that the country could collapse into another civil war?
Well, at this point, it is too early to say. The biggest priority, I think, for the government as well as for the people is to ensure that the basic supplies are delivered to the people who have been undergoing tremendous economic difficulties in the last several months, primarily because of the bad governance and faulty decision making of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So that will be the priority for everybody in this country for the next few months. Of course, thereafter, there are many accountability issues, both with regard to human rights, with regard to other violations of the law, but also on political accountability. For instance, there is an issue that affected large sections of the country and particularly the Muslim community when he did not permit Muslims to bury
Okay.
their COVID-19 victims and insisted that they be cremated. So that really upset the entire Muslim community. Then there are other issues with regard to fertilizer subsidy and so on. So
Okay.
it's a big mix. So it's too early to say how it will play out.
All right, Javid Yusuf joining us from Colombo. Thank you for your time.